All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's talk about robot adoption. We were really wondering, why is robot adoption so slow and why are the differences so significant? I mean, in a country like South Korea, you will find 1,000 robots per 1,000 workers, whereas in the US, you only get 300 for 10,000 workers. And this is a really big difference. Do you have any idea why?
I don't know, it's really hard to say because also to me, the US is, the powerhouse of innovation. So
AI, everything. Yeah.
Right, so I would think that actually it's in that country where there will be most robots, which is the future.
Exactly. But then we see workers rioting in 2024 against automation because people were dreading, automation is going to take our jobs.
Yeah, but I guess that's just the human factor, that people are scared and they want to have a job. I mean, they want to survive and have food on the table at the end of the day.
It's probably same as people were scared when the steam engine came, and they were like, we want to do all of this hard, heavy work with our hands and not with this engine, which makes it all easier. And I mean, now, today, we're all doing better, aren't we?
We are, but still, someone has to provide. So there needs to be some type of income and you need to be able to provide food for your families. Yeah, you will be reluctant if you see that there is a robot that might take your job the next day.
Right, yeah. I mean, we see it today, almost everyone has like a robotic vacuum cleaner at home. I mean, that's totally normal, but you don't see anything like that in public spaces or something like that, do you?
Right, but that comes down to the governments, though, and the institutions.
Elaborate. Why?
Well, I mean, they do take care of the cleaning of the streets, right?
Okay.
So it's rather than the public sector and the people working in the public sector that don't just think far enough and see the broader picture and think a little bit outside the box. And
so you're saying they're artificially limiting it to keep people in their job?
Right. I mean, it's probably a double-headed sword, so to say, that, as we said, you want to provide jobs for your population and make sure that there is not too much of unemployed people. So it's a little bit of balance that, you do want to employ people, but at the same time, you want to be future-proof and make sure that things are automized.
Yeah, I remember, I probably won't get this quite right, but someone was saying in the UK, it's not that robots take people's jobs, it's rather that people take the jobs from robots because they simply don't have enough jobs for all their workers. Can you imagine that?
To some extent I can.
Right. It almost feels like a time shift because we also know from studies and experts claiming that things like AI and automation are not really going to limit the total number of jobs. It's rather that, the area in which the jobs are created in will shift a little bit. But here it sort of feels like we have a distorted time shift almost, where the new jobs created by AI are just not there yet. And if we adopt and get the robots in the factories, we already take the old jobs out. So is it going too fast? I don't know.
I don't know either, but it could also be the fact that people today are not educated in the right area.
Right, I mean, that takes time. If you want to educate people in different domains, you have to start early on in school and, this takes years, decades. I mean, let us know your thoughts. I would really be interested in what you think is the issue here. But then let's continue with the legal requirements. I mean, we see that in factories, it's, for very repetitive jobs without any human interaction, robot automation does work. We put a big fence around the robot, no one can run in there and everything works fine. But as soon as you have some kind of interaction between humans and robots, it gets quite tricky, also depending by country, especially here in the EU, where you have a lot of safety regulations in the factories.
But that's the EU in a nutshell, right?
That's the EU in a nutshell. I mean, no one can be starry-eyed enough to think that, okay, if something like ChatGPT had been developed in the EU, that it would have actually been allowed. You know, we would still be regulating and, you know, making sure that it's not going to turn out like iRobot with Will Smith, you know, and this is where just America was faster because they don't have this unnecessary legal red tape that they have to go through, as we do have here in Europe. So one would think that robot adoption should be just further in the US, but as we see by the stats, it isn't.
Right. But to that point also, we're not saying that EU is better in that sense compared to the US.
No, quite the opposite.
Because, yeah, I mean, we see that with the AI revolution now, that a lot of the things are coming from the US. Meanwhile, here in Europe, we're sitting and looking at each other and thinking, what rule or what regulation can we do to prevent this AI to take over, you know?
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
where we're at.
How can we limit ourselves even more?
Right. So I'm actually not surprised that here in the EU, we also don't have a lot of robotics and a lot of adaptation in automation. But yeah.
Right. Because the governments are always warning us of that threat that the reproduction rate is way too low. People make more babies. They're saying on average it's 1.3 to 1.6 children per woman, which is far below the reproduction rate. And that means that by 2050, we will have 17% less workers in the workforce. And this is quite a significant drop. And how would you compensate for that? I mean, either you need to have people from other countries coming, so immigration, or you have robots taking those jobs. Otherwise, there's no solution to it.
The biggest solution from the EU has been, you know, to bring people from low educated countries and think that, oh, they will somehow solve
Is it politically correct to say low educated countries?
Yes.
No,
You say no. Okay, high educated, low educated, I don't know what. But no matter what, the solution and the answer that people in the EU have to an aging population and a shrinking workforce is immigration, or that we need humans to do the job.
Today,
but
that's
the
the
thing
answer.
is
That's right.
that you don't need a human to do the job today. Not always. Yes, sometimes you do need a human still. But there is a lot of applications today where a robot can replace the human. But if you then choose your answer, and your answer that you choose is, oh, we need a human to do it, of course you will say, we need more people to come here. And I think that's the main problem. And I don't want to get too political. I think that's just facts, that the EU chooses its solution, and the solution that the EU chooses is humans and not robots.
Yeah, today they're really not fostering automation as they could, because South Korea also somehow needs to get it right, because they wouldn't install all the robots if they did not get to their return on investment. So with such a big difference, I mean, there must be a use case for robots.
Right, and there you see something interesting, because what I also think is the EU chooses to focus on certain topics and don't focus so much on other topics. So, I mean, lately, it's been a lot about the green transition, and we need green energy, and that's what the EU has focused a lot on lately.
That's right, yeah.
And what they do then is, let's subsidize electric vehicles. We, especially here in Germany where we live, they want people to have EVs, so they give money to people. And it's the same in Sweden. But you know what? What if they would choose to focus on robotics and solving this shrinking population question with, subsidizing automation and robotics instead?
I mean, I would rather say fostering or facilitating that, because, subsidies never really touch the root cause of the problem. It's just that you're trying to cure the symptoms. This is only what you achieve by subsidies. You'll never get to the core. Like, you can of course say, okay, if a company now wants to purchase a robot and the robot costs 100K and the government says, dear company, we're going to give you 70K, so it's only 30 for you. Yes, of course, this will give some initial spark, but it will never really solve the root cause that, maybe the technology isn't advanced enough, maybe the legal requirements are actually a problem, and it's just not getting to the core. So it's never going to provide a long-lasting resolution to your barrier.
Fair point. But the technology must be there to a great extent though today. Maybe not for the most advanced applications, but just to give you an example, I was playing golf in Portugal, and on the golf course, on a hole on the golf course, they have a robotic lawnmower cutting the grass on the fairway. It was absolutely perfect.
That can't be too difficult.
No, because you just use a satellite and you just use some GPS coordinates and boom, you have your robot cutting the hole. Like, you cut the fairway.
Yeah.
It's not super advanced stuff. And like you said, clean the streets. You just have to go up and down a street and clean it.
What
Like,
about the
it's
driving range? Did they still have a human on the driving range?
No, that's also something that has been now automized and transformed into a robotic.
Like collecting the balls and stuff?
Right. So
Because if I remember correctly from the driving range, you always had this human sitting in a little tractor, and while everyone was hitting their balls, this human in this poor human in the little tractor became like a moving target. And they were like, oh, let's hit that guy. And the guy was always in his tractor with the shields around him and got hit by the balls and stuff. So I think that's not really the most desirable job. So automating that one, no-brainer.
Right. So I think there are these super simple applications that can be done by a robot.
Yeah, much more so than today, absolutely.
Right. I agree with you on the subsidies, and it's not really, touching the root cause of things, but still some subsidies to help this transformation in the society, I think would have been helpful.
All right. So a lot of things mentioned. Let us know your thoughts on this topic in the comments below. We're happy to answer each of your comments. And let's wrap it up. Tune in next time and see you around.
Thanks for watching.